All right, guys, welcome to episode 76 of the Bench Podcast, powered by Wowhead. In today's episode, Tettles is gone on holiday, so we're going to take this time to actually have nuanced and interesting discussion with solid reasoning and sensical takes about World of Warcraft. Joining me, as always, my good friend Squishy, but we have a special guest, Shaman Crusher, officer in the #1 guild in the world of OCE, multi-time Hall of Famer and M Plus title holder. He takes the Tomato VTuber game to the next level, and now he's taking on a job that is needed more than ever. Accurately reporting factual information about the state of World of Warcraft during the PTR and beta. Zorthas, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So for people that don't know who you are, can you kind of give like a brief description of yourself? What do you do? That kind of thing.
I'm mostly a M plus streamer. I stream a lot of beta PTR. Over the last few PTRs, I've been playing like 10-hour days the entire PTR cycle of like keys generally. I make a lot of videos about things happening on PTRs and beta. Um, I really enjoy the whole scene of like being in beta, finding out new things. In the actual game of WoW, I push high keys and I play in a top 20 guild, rank 1 OS guild.
Yeah, so I've always sort of known of you as like a, shaman owner guy or whatever, but I noticed, sorry if this was earlier, but for me I noticed at least first in the War Within that you started putting out videos about specific topics. I feel like it's something that the community wants people like us to do more often, but a lot of times we don't do a good job of it or get our opinions maybe tangled in the weeds a little bit too much. But I noticed when we talk about like the first one I remember that was really impactful was talking about the monk buff when they wanted to increase the monk buff and like other sort of topics. What sort of drove you to be like, hey, I want to like package this and explain these things that are going on to like, like what I guess got you started with making these sorts of like beta PTR videos?
I've honestly always wanted to like get my opinions out. I remember back in 2024, I like wanted to have some kind of video or something about Orgavoka. Back when that was like a big discussion, but I didn't really have a YouTube channel back then, so I didn't. Um, it's nice to have a voice, and I like to report on things that I believe are like objective. Like the monk buff, I think everything I brought up in that is like pretty much objective. I think that's like a lot of issue with sometimes other videos are dismissed because they're like subjective, but I try to make my points as objective as possible.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, that's one thing that I appreciated most about the videos was, you have some creators, talking about, oh, there's way too many casts and dungeons. And then there's other creators being like, oh, there's not enough casts and dungeons. They're recruiting stuff. And it's like, okay, well, can we just get some numbers here? Like, can we talk about what this means? Like, how can two people have such different points? And you almost don't necessarily give your opinion in the video. You sort of just present the facts of like, okay, this is what I see. This is what the casts are like. This is what a kick rotation would look like. I guess you know the video I'm talking about most recently about the big discussion about bolt slop is like, I feel like a lot of the community wants the dungeons to be as easy as simple and possible just to avoid friction and the need for coordination. But I think you did a much better job sort of alleviating concerns that we did. If we're just like, oh yeah, we're top players, it's fine. Whereas you're like, okay, this is actually what the dungeons are going to look like, and this is what you're going to have to go through.
Yeah, I think I don't know. It's like there's a lot of like scare. Everyone's scared right now. There's a lot of like misinformation, maybe. Like nobody really knows what's going on. Things aren't clear.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
guess we
feel like
can we can segue that in right away in something that people are definitely going to be interested in. And after all of this talk about being objective, I'm going to ask for your opinion about your thoughts of like the concern about things being ready or the progress of the in-game systems, like the nameplates. I think are a big thing. The damage meters. Since you've been playing like so much beta since it started, how do you feel personally about the progress, and what do you think it's going to look like going into the release? And it's like late March, right?
I think the UI is actually in a decent state in most places with add-ons. I think the default UI is a bit lacking, but add-ons can do a surprising amount of things. I'm pretty sure Plata has like 90% of its functionality. Like even there's colored nameplates. There's like I imported my Plata profile. It looks exactly the same. The only thing is like you can't like filter debuffs how you want, but Blizzard has filtered debuffs in their own way. The cooldown manager is like the add-ons can just move anything from the cooldown manager and like reformat them into bars, etc. I really think the whole like completeness thing is more on add-ons than Blizzard. And I mean, I guess that kind of sounds dumb, but
Yeah.
I do think Blizzard are kind of limited in what they can do because they don't want to have an options menu the size of a book. Like Play to option menu has like 20 tabs at the top, and I think it's like pretty unreadable. I don't think Blizzard is like trying to do that. So I think a lot of the add-on development over the next 2 months is like pretty relevant for the UI coming along.
I agree.
And honestly, we are actually pretty early in a beta cycle. This is like one of the earliest betas, I think. And we still have like 3 months to release. I'm pretty sure at this point, M Plus wasn't even out in More Within beta.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing about the UI because there's been a lot of talk about nameplate colors, right? But I feel like a majority of people who play the game who use nameplate colors, they're not manually going into their nameplates and coloring the mobs, right? Like they're basically importing a pack from like Jundee or Dorky or whoever, right? And so I feel like it's not out of the realm of possibility that Blizzard has something in game, right? Like why can't they just have a little checkbox that says color all mobs with health with mana bars a different color or color all lieutenants with a different color, right? Like I feel like this stuff, if you've been playing the beta, you kind of realize like it's not even out of the realm of possibility. Like it's not like Blizzard is openly saying we don't want colored nameplates, right? It's just a mix of figuring out what Blizzard wants to do and the add-on developers sort of getting done with the new set of tools, the limited tools that they have.
Yeah, I mean on the add-on
I
front. On the add-on front
Yeah,
itself.
sorry. You talk.
I mean, you had the big details video, right? To talk about a video.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel like Blizzard almost exclusively watched that and responded directly to it, considering they pretty much addressed all your points exactly.
Yeah, it was actually it did seem that way. I am hoping they do a good job because they did outline pretty much everything I wanted. And this week they did work on the segments, which is also something I wanted. Although they kind of failed, and whenever you're in boss combat, everyone's damage shows as 0, and the segments like break all the time. But it does show they're trying to do something, and they're probably going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good sign. I think I mean, it's possible that they're like looking either way though. It's a sign that they're looking at the community, right? Like they're actively paying attention to what we're asking for and what we want. And I think a lot of people were really worried when at the very start of the alpha, right, when it was like, oh, yep, all add-ons are going away, everything is dead. But I think it's sort of making sense their process now of like they had to remove everything, and now they're saying like, okay, what are people most desperate for? What are the things that we can't do? And then they're like slowly starting to fix it. I'm still not sure. Like these add-ons are very, very powerful, right? Like what you mentioned, like Playground has 20 different tabs, Details has 50 different tabs, and there's plugins to get even more tabs that you didn't want. And I don't really see the in-game stuff having that capabilities, so it's just a matter of like, I don't know. I think it's a big step forward if the in-game can do most of what we want, right? Like I'm okay losing 10% of the functionality if I don't have to worry about add-ons and it actually works well, don't you think?
Yeah, I also think like some of the functionalities are just like overstated. Like you'll see some people like talking about the things they need, and it's like highlights and rave frames or like random things. I don't know. Some things probably don't actually matter that much.
Yeah. So
yeah, I think most of it comes down to like the fights being fun, right? Like if it gets people to play and the fights are fun, then I don't really think the add-on stuff matters as much as people like to think.
Yeah. So onto this week's build real quick. One of the things that I think kind of took the community by storm was the new healing absorb texture. What did you guys think about that?
I was confused.
Zorthas?
It's funny. I like the Louis Vuitton healing absorb bit.
It is remarkable how many people called it that, like, right off the bat. Because, I mean, if you look down, like, here, this is what everybody's kind of gotten used to with the healing absorb, where it's just kind of a grayed out thing. And I think adding a little more is fine, but, like, now everybody just has to deal with this. And I don't know if people want this texture.
I mean, they just rolled it out, right? You say everybody has to deal with this. Like, this is I would call it an attempt. Hopefully that's what it is. It's an attempt and they rework it. I don't know. Personally, I use Cell, and Cell is pretty elegant in the way that it does absorbs and shields. Like, basically there's a slightly like gray whitish overlay if there's a shield, and then there's a slightly like red pinkish overlay and it's absorbed. And I don't think it's that complicated. And I feel like it was interesting that they tried a texture, but yeah, this doesn't work. This is not good.
I mean,
I've warmed up to it a bit. It is like very obvious it's a heal absorb, and I am pretty sure add-ons will be able to reskin it. It looks pretty comical. You just look at it, it's kind of comical. It's like just funny. Like, I don't know if it fits.
I think it's just, the word I would use is like over-engineered. I don't think adding a texture is a bad thing, because for some people it might be hard to see the old one. I just think they maybe went a little too far with this one. But, you know, they're trying, right? Like, one of the things they did in this recent build as well was the new out of range indicator that was not removable in any way. Like, I don't remember us talking about this, but if somebody was out of range, it would, you know, fade the frame out and also add this eyeball in the middle of your frame, and that was rough. It was very distracting.
Sometimes they wouldn't even fade the frame out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was weird. I didn't quite understand it, right? Because it would be like almost inconsistent. Like, the fade would still be there sometimes, but then it wasn't always there, and then most of the time it would show the eye. Also, didn't the eye have like a tool tip, and it would like block your frames? It would like say out of range as you moused over that eye or whatever. Like, I don't know. I could see if you're like a total beginner healer and you are struggling understanding what this means and you wanted something more obvious, but that is definitely not what it should be as default for the out of range indicator.
Yeah, but they removed it this build, which is great. Like,
yep.
They heard the feedback, they're too instructive, and it's just gone now. I don't even know that, like, it's possible to get back if you wanted it. So they're doing stuff, and I can't really complain about that. So
another thing with the frames here too, this is something that Terathal, he's been mentioned a couple times on the show, and he came on the other week. One thing that a lot of people pointed out is like debuffs being very, very difficult to track or like pay attention to. And sort of what Zorthas alluded to is like any individual piece of the UI, you can't necessarily like decipher it or whatever, but you can move it and customize it, right? So this is an example of how a lot of people use old frames, where you can drag the debuffs off of the frame and make them way bigger. You can't necessarily blacklist or whitelist or like hide specific debuffs or like glow when this important debuff is there. But if you look at this, like if you're healing an M+, this is way more obvious now than trying to look at that little tiny corner in somebody. And this is like 100% doable on the UI. This is like something that very likely will be a part of frame add-ons when the game goes live. And also, like, you know, being able to move where the hots are again, or sorry, the buffs, I should say, because you can't decipher in between what buffs are there, but you can move them and customize them and change the size. You know, that was one big complaint about the frames, was that everything was too small and it was hard to like pick out things and look at them or whatever. And it's nice to kind of drag stuff off of the frame and give it a little bit more space in a situation like for dungeons where you really, really need to see like, oh, the tank has a, you know, some nasty thing that needs to get removed, or the, you know, the healer is silenced or something.
And I know you've been doing a lot of dungeons, Zorthas. How have you found the raid frames in dungeons?
I am a default raid frame user. I even healed. I healed like 3 seasons straight on default raid frames with like maybe minor adjustments. They are default raid frames. I think they're pretty much like fine. Honestly, in my opinion, they're the most complete part of the UI. But I mean, if you're someone that's used to non-default raid frames, you probably wouldn't agree.
That's the biggest thing I think that everybody's struggling with, is being used to something, right? Like when you're really, really used to something, you change the way it plays, and then you're like, oh, this is terrible. Like one thing, for example, is like efflorescence. It's something that you have to keep active as a druid. Well, maybe not this expansion, but a buff that you have to keep up every 30 seconds. Well, if you're used to having it, let's say, on your cursor or on this part of the screen or something, and your brain literally always goes to look there over and over and over again, well, if now it has to be part of your cooldown manager or in some specific spot, your uptime is going to go to the toilet, right? Like, it's going to be so hard to do it. That doesn't necessarily mean the way it's displayed is bad or wrong. It's just everyone is going from a world where they can do whatever they want and kind of like customize things to like, okay, you have to be a little bit more part of like the stock base game or whatever. And it's definitely a huge, like a very jarring feeling to try and play without that customization. But, like you said, if you use default frames and you use the default frames, like you don't even care. You're like, hey, this is exactly what I've been using and I know it's functional and it's totally fine.
All right. So we kind of talked about dungeons a little bit. 4 new dungeons were available on the PTR this week. They were the 4 brand new ones. So what are our overall thoughts? Have you done them, Growl? Zorthas, I know you've been doing them a lot. So how do you guys feel about them?
So I did the first couple of the first week. I admittedly didn't do any testing this week. I meant to, but I've just been so lazy and like doing some IRL stuff. So I hope to still get on those in the next couple days or whatever while they're available. One thing I noticed, I don't know if this is just a me getting old thing, but I literally couldn't even remember the names of them. I had to open up my PTR client to like look at the names and see like, okay, Magistrate. Maybe it's just because I don't like make the keys or whatever. I don't have to pay attention to it, but I don't know. It kind of seemed hit or miss. Some of them seemed okay. Some of them seemed not okay. I was watching some gameplay, mostly of Dorky play. Aesthetically, I don't know. Everything seemed kind of like a little darker than I liked and like a little grim. Like even like the outdoor dungeon. This is just like, not necessarily talking about the gameplay, but like even the outdoor dungeon with like all the trolls and stuff was like everything was kind of like dark and like these like dark green colors. Like the elf ones, like Magister's Terrace or whatever, just seemed like kind of dark. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't really feel strongly either way, but I don't know. It's just they just seem like kind of like dungeons. I don't know. What did you guys think?
So on the other side, I've been doing nothing but these dungeons for the last 5 days.
Yep, that's why you're here.
Initially they felt hard, but that's like how it always is when there's new dungeons. Like people don't know what's going on, they feel hard. Now that people are warming up to them, they're not that hard. The bosses are, I think, over the dungeons, the bosses, there are a few bosses that are like really hard. There are a lot of healer bosses. I think healing is like a very important thing in these dungeons. But generally, I don't think there's anything that's like has like super tough overlaps or anything. There's a mix of like open and non-open dungeons. Like this Mysara Caverns dungeon, it's like a cool dungeon with like a lot of different environments, and the whole thing is like very open. And I don't think there's like a single mandatory pack in the entire dungeon.
Yeah.
I think the like the overall like pack makeup is like there are casters and there are packs with that have like 2 casters. I don't think there's many situations in which I found we would pull 3 casters. And it is kind of easier to deal with casters with the way kicks are now.
Do you notice the kick lockout? Is it like something that you feel where it's like all the lockouts are so much longer?
Honestly, not so much because it's like really uncoordinated and people probably don't even have like focus kicks set up a lot of the time. I feel it. I was playing DK and I can like solo control a mob for 30 seconds. So I can feel it when I kick a mob. I don't really know if I mean, I probably just don't notice it when someone else kicks a mob.
Yeah, that's fair. I think my biggest thing is these dungeons. I did them exactly once, and I think the things that like I noticed were I found it a lot harder to learn what mobs do. Like there were multiple points when I'm just dying, no cast bars have gone off period, and I'm just dying. And I don't know to what, or like if we miss something, I'm standing in something or what. Did you have any of that like experience?
Yeah, I did, but are you sure that doesn't like always happen with new dungeons? I don't know. I feel like new dungeons are just always hard when you
It's
first
possible.
do them.
It's entirely possible.
I feel like it's a mix. I think one thing is like the dungeons are not easier, right? Like we're talking about excuse me, we're talking about how the kicks are reasonable, they're more manageable, there's less kicks, but at the same time, we're saying these dungeons are still very tough, and a lot of that difficulty comes from unavoidable stuff. Like that's one thing that I noticed is there's just a lot of things that happen. Like there were a lot of pulls in previous expansions where it would be like you gather up all the mobs, you do something to make them like basically be target dummies, whether it's like, silence beam this that, or whether you're like chain stunning or whatever, and then you just sort of like nuke them down. Whereas like a lot of these packs, like they're going to do stuff back to you. Like you can't just stop them from doing all of their things. There's going to be stuff that happens. Also, I think for me, the lack of like good details and like details death meters and stuff made it harder to see what was happening to you as well. But I think it's just a mix of the three, like new dungeons, new philosophy, and less like add-ons helping you decipher stuff.
That's fair.
That's true. No death meter. Like you die to something, you don't know what it's happening, but previously you would just know I exactly died to a death bolt.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of the stuff is like pretty formulaic. Like, you see there's just a lot of things happening to you, whether it's like a cat that jumps on you, or a mob that shoots you, but it's sort of like an unavoidable shoot, or like AoE pulsing damage or whatever. Like all that stuff happens, and I feel like there's more of it than ever in these dungeons, which I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, or if it's a good or bad thing. I feel like we're sort of going in this cycle of we push the dungeons to their limits, and then we start to learn like where the really big pain points are. Like I remember in Shadowlands it was like really heavy tank damage, and then in Dragonflight it was like, and then end of Shadowlands Dragonflight it was like casts and like caster mobs and CC, and now it's been kind of like AoE group damage, and we're kind of like in that era now. I feel like there's always going to be something where you're playing Mythic Plus where you're like, oh, this is too hard, there's way too much of this, right? Because if there never is that, then you just roll through the dungeons and you win.
Yeah.
The AoE group damage is really interesting. I think it's been happening since War Within. I think that was like their response to the zero healer, the 4 DPS pulls. They just gradually have been making things do more and more like passive AoE damage, and I mean I think it's kind of fine. Like it means there's more happening, more to think about with like healing and defensives.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
you're healing this here. Like it looks like so much damage.
This is because frontal is hitting multiple people in the group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I felt like my sort of opinion of the dungeons is I felt like the trash was a little bit overwhelming, but I did kind of like the boss design. It was maybe a little bit too much like bullet hell, like dodge stuff, for example, but it did seem like there wasn't a lot of really difficult overlaps. There wasn't a lot of like oppressive, like instant damage. It was more just like a lot of rot damage, one sort of like theme mechanic that you have to worry about. It also seemed like there was kind of a lot of area denial too. I feel like there was a lot of bosses that would like you see this boss is like putting ice all over the ground. I remember there's the one in I don't remember the names, like Windrunner Spire, the duo or whatever with the guy that you have to hook. Like that guy like puts a bunch of puddles all over the ground. You're kind of like moving as a group. I kind of felt like there's just like different themes, but overall it felt, I don't know, I kind of liked the boss design in general from what I've seen at least.
There are definitely some
I
better
like
ones
most of the
than
bosses.
others.
Some are very basic.
Yeah.
I think like the last boss of Windrunner Spire, kind of nothing matters.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything. It's like a worse version of the Vortex Pinnacle boss, which is something.
Also, it's a big contrast compared to the older returning dungeons. Like Skyreach has like 3 target dummies.
Yeah,
these bosses actually do something.
I think like Mysara, which is on screen right now, is definitely probably the hardest dungeon in this cycle, and it's definitely a huge step up over the others. The old returning dungeons and like Windrunner Spire just seem way easier than the other dungeons in general. So,
do you feel like it's been like that? I feel like that it's been like that a lot, Zorthas, where like when they bring in old dungeons, they're like too easy. I don't know if it's like a scaling thing or what, or maybe it's just design creep or whatever, but I feel like that's always been the case with Dragonflight, with War Within, and now with this expansion, that the older dungeons just seem easier.
Yeah, for the most part, the older dungeons have always been easier, unless there's a Cataclysm dungeon. Those are all hard. But
hardest expansion ever.
Well, here's an example. People have timed 20 Algathar and 20 Pit of Sauron, 19 Skyreach, but I don't think anyone's going to be timing like 18 Mysara, really.
Yeah.
That might be like the limit right now.
So like this boss here, how do you feel about I feel like there's an increase in coordination mechanics. That
I feel like
like
you did your screen cap
yeah.
get wrong
did it?
No,
for,
my
or
bad.
scene or
My
whatever.
bad.
No, you're good.
Like this boss here, where it feels like there's a lot of coordination mechanics in these dungeons. You know, this one you have to like clash two ghosts together twice, or you can like have somebody run into it. Like, do you feel like there's an increase in the number of you need to kind of think mechanics with the removal of add-ons?
Not really, to be honest. I feel like it's like kind of easy. It's like you just drag the two ghosts into each other. If you don't know how the boss works, it's confusing.
Yeah,
But I feel like once you actually know how the boss works, these things are pretty formulaic. Like these two ghosts spawn, you take the two ghosts into melee, and then the next two ghosts you just stagger and do them later.
that's fair.
I
Yeah,
kind of,
well-
I don't know. I still like it. Like, I think for really good players, it seems trivial, but like, I think there is still a lot to min max with like the movement, right? Because you have the puddles don't seem super important. Like, maybe if the area denial part of the puddles mattered more. But I think there still is some nuance there to like working with your team, figuring out what's going on, like maximizing your damage. It's definitely not the most like brutally difficult boss, but I think also it's like pretty high frequency, right? Like you have to keep doing it over and over and over again, so you're constantly like seeing who you're paired with, like who's the best person, getting hit by the frontal.
That frontal has an awful animation in the pre-ramp. I got
Yeah,
hit
it is
by
pretty annoying.
Yeah. Do you have what do you think is the hardest boss? Or the one that you think people will struggle on the most?
It's probably the boss after this one, I think.
Okay, the one right after
Like
this.
massive damage.
This guy. Did you see this boss, girl?
I did. I watched it and I didn't fully understand, so I was watching Dorky's POV, so he was like tanking it. I noticed there was like a lot of like area denial, but it was kind of like going away quick, and then he would get like you would get ported to the beginning, right? You'd have to do this gauntlet, which it's been too long since I brought up Fellowship on the show, but this is awfully similar to a Fellowship boss that I remember. You do have to like knock these guys or like stop these ghosts or whatever as you're running, but yeah, what is hard about this guy? Is it just that it's like crazy amounts of group damage? I don't even remember.
Yeah, it's
much
crazy
of the
group damage.
mechanic.
Like this slam hits very fast. There's all these swirlies. There's the tank drops the puddle on the ground and it's like very big. You have to kill these totems very quickly, and they're like sucking you in.
Yeah.
But then you do the phase, and it is damage amp, and the boss kind of like dies.
Yeah, it says this. Yeah, so you get sent away, and he does ticking damage the entire time. And I think there's 6 ads that you need to stop on the way there.
Yeah, you kick them or you stop them.
And every one gives you a 25% damage buff. So you're doing the gauntlet. You don't want to touch the people because they stun you or something, and everyone is 25%. So root. Hey, look, good on you for showing us.
Yep. Just had to demonstrate the mechanic. So is that a group damage buff? Everybody gets the 25% for each stop?
Yeah, so everyone has 6 stacks. It's 150% damage.
And the
you also
boss
have
just
speed
melts.
and like healing as well. The boss is stunned.
So
one thing I wanted to ask.
Bosses.
Sorry, you can continue. Yeah,
there are a lot
that
of
seemed like a
damage
theme
amp
with Mana
bosses.
Forge, didn't it? It seemed like there was a lot of damage at bosses in Mana Forge that they kind of like that.
Yeah, in these dungeons, there's one in Nexus Point, Zenas. There was one in Seat of the Triumvirate. Madis's Terrace also has a damage amp boss. There are a lot of damage amp bosses.
One thing I wanted to ask too was I personally felt like both Ecodome and Floodgate were giga good dungeons. And they even sort of like talked briefly about like, oh, we have this new philosophy. We're like kind of changing the way they design things. Do you feel like there's any continuation there? I kind of feel like these dungeons just kind of feel like samey to the the older dungeons. Or do you feel like they're kind of like going in a better direction with the way they design them?
I think it's like a half. Ecodome and Floodgate are like, well, there's nothing that has like 2 casters in a single pull in those dungeons really, but that's not really the case in these dungeons. I think like Floodgate has a lot of choice in. I think Ecodome has a lot of choice in where you go. Like at every point you have like 2 packs, one on the left, one on the right, and you can like choose where to go. I think that happens a lot in these dungeons. I think they've done that philosophy a lot.
Yeah, that's fair. I think one of the things that I was kind of interested in is they basically just like because the spy game, or not the spy game, I think it was a Stratholme that was brought back for a season, right? They did the like clone mechanic, so like they brought that back on the like the last boss of Nexus Point, and where you have to find the imposter, right? Do you feel like this is a good mechanic?
This mechanic is extremely simple. There is one clone that does not have horns.
Yes.
You just kick that clone.
Like, I get what they're going for here, but I feel like it's just like, I don't know why it exists, because he just kind of goes highs, and then you just quickly look for the one that doesn't have horns, and you like find it in 2 seconds.
The first time we did this, I had no idea what was going on, and we were just like chain wiping because we couldn't figure it out. And like the second time, I learned that the one that didn't have horns, you just kicked it, and that was it. It's a really simple mechanic. This boss is like really annoying for melee, by the way. There's incredible amount of aero denial.
Yeah.
And frontals.
Do you think there's any sort of leaning to like melee versus range? I know usually during a beta cycle, there's like oh, this is going to be impossible for melee, or oh, this is going to be impossible for range. Do you see any sort of like general meta or ideas developing yet, or is it too soon to tell?
I don't think so. I think melee is fine. Honestly, I've not had many issues with melee. This Nexus Point dungeon is hard for melee, though. There's like a lot of frontals in that dungeon.
There's also a lot of, I feel like, times you get
I think
out,
it's gotten
right?
easier with their better the better telegraphing or whatever, like being able to always see the frontals on the ground. I feel like that makes it a lot easier for, like, unless it's a literal mechanic where it's a giant circle that you have to run out of. I feel like most pulls are manageable now for melee. Whereas like thinking back to like BFA or Shadowlands, mobs that would do like the backhand or the thrusts and hauls would be like actually so brutal to just like see where they're going and like how to dodge them when you're in melee.
Yeah, that kind of thing doesn't exist. In Nexus Point, it's like the big Dreadlords. They do a frontal. There's not really a telegraph for it, apart from just like the mob is casting, I guess. But there's no like small just mobs that hit the tank and then also just do a frontal, and if you're there in front of it, you just die. That doesn't really exist.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got fervented by that, which was great. My tank rolled to pick up more mobs, and then I got leaped on by that frontal and I died.
Yeah, I've seen that happen.
Yeah. We love fervent
He just like
strikes.
jumps out at the back to range and just hits someone.
Yeah, I actually think what was your favorite boss of the new set? Did you have a favorite one?
I like the second boss of Magus' Terrace. I think that's probably my favorite.
Oh, did you do it today?
It's yeah, I would have.
Okay.
It's probably like earlier in the VOD. I'm playing Resto Druid.
Ah, here we are. Let's see here. Why do you like this one so much?
It's not on screen, by the way.
Yeah, I have to find it.
Oh, yeah, okay. It's 3 people get a dot. There's a zone you have to clear in, and you have to clear sequentially. And it's like very fast paced, and there's a lot of healing going on, a lot of defensive usage, and it's like a coordination assignment thing. I think it's pretty cool. How you use this zone.
I actually think pings are the MVP of this boss fight. Like, I did this, and you just ping yourself, or you ping the person if you want them to go, and like pings allow this coordination mechanic to be done okay in pugs. And I think that's actually really, really good. And really
it's like
cool.
raid leading. I was like doing it the first time I did the boss. I just ping one guy, he goes in. I ping the second guy, he goes in. And I ping the third guy. And
how did we live without pings?
Dude, I remember people were shit talking pings for a while. I'm like, dude, they're gonna be the best thing ever. You just wait. So.
Yeah, pings are great.
But yeah, I'm like big fan of this boss. I actually really liked the first or the left boss of Nexus Point with the lines where you have to like clear the lines every so often. I think there's a lot of
A lot of people like this.
a lot of choice in how you want to clear it, because the boss slowly like encloses the area with laser beams, and the laser beams straight up just one shot you for the most part. But every so often you get a clear, and there's a lot of options on how you want to clear. You can clear it at intersection to clear multiple beams. You can clear a beam that's close to you, like, and it completely is like determined on your group and your strategy how you want to clear. Because the only scary part is he leaves pools on the ground every so often for more area denial, and he has a knockback every so often. So like, the entire name of the game is like keeping the area clear, and I think that is such a cool mechanic. Ground, did you have any? I know you didn't play, but
pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely remember looking at this boss. I didn't fully understand like how the clear was working, but it definitely looked pretty wild. Yeah, I guess I haven't got to play him yet, so I don't want to make any judgments yet. But I would say overall from the first week of testing that I was doing, I did like the overall boss design. It does sound like these are a bit more brutal in terms of the group damage, and maybe I just wasn't doing high enough keys or whatever, but to me it felt like good pacing. Like as a healer, I felt like I was busy and I had stuff to do, but it wasn't like every single boss was brutality. Some of the stuff where whenever it had like a ton of movement or like any line of sight stuff, I definitely would get a little frustrated, but for the most part it was like I would say like I was a fan of the overall boss design, and then the trash design was like, I don't want to say I wasn't a fan, but I was struggling a little bit to like handle all of the mechanics and understand what was going on. That was like kind of my overall theme of the like seeing all the dungeons.
I think there are some real overtuned trash packs right now, like Runic Brand in Magister's Terrace just ruins your day, and I think the bleed in like Winter and Aspired hurts really bad too. But yeah, I can see that. I mean, are we back in like a heal? You know, if you have a bad healer, dungeons are just gonna be hard era again. Is that where we're at?
I think so.
I do feel a lot when I have a bad healer in these keys. A healer that isn't experienced.
How does defensive usage feel? Because like I know they did some effort to like try and prune defensive, but with all the damage, it seems like your defensive usage is going to be giga important. No.
I mean, I think it's on a per class basis. Like some classes are way more pruned than others. Like Shaman kind of has like one defensive. Then I log onto Hunter and I have like 3 things I can press at any given time. It's I don't know. I think they did the pruning very selectively.
It's possible.
That's not what people like to hear, but I do kind of agree. That's kind of like, I feel like many of the topics we're not going to get into class design too much, but like that's definitely a thing. Is like everything is just class by class basis. Like some classes people are saying they're playing totally fine, they're playing great. Other classes they're like, what is Blizzard doing? And I think that's gonna be the toughest one for sure, because they're making such, I don't want to say very broad changes to the game, but they're, you know, trying to change things in a pretty big way. Like they're not gonna hit every single class or spec the same way, and hopefully that doesn't end up making some classes like crazy OP or like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Hunter is getting a pretty big facelift, because also Hunter's Mark getting buffed to be just flat 3% is it the best raid buff in the game? Is it over Shaman?
I guess it depends on your raid comp, but it's probably the best raid buff in a game against a single target. Also against, like there's like a boss in the raid that's 2 dragons.
Yeah,
and
okay.
To have Hunter's Mark on both of them, you need 2 hunters, and each hunter's 1.5% raid buff, which is like, well, 1.5% is still good raid buff territory.
Yeah.
Yeah, you actually brought that up on your video. That it made me stop and think, because like I don't know, I just didn't really consider that. But not to get into raid stuff right away, but you brought up the idea that okay, Hunter is the best raid buff in the game, but you can only put it on 1 mob, and so like, oh, maybe that's a downside if it's a 3 target fight. And then you're like, well, what if you just have to, like, what if you just bring 3 hunters? And it's like, like it makes me think of, like, you know, Squishy for one has been very passionate about his annoyance about how it's just a mandatory double DK on Demencius because of this whole like grip is not a raid buff thing. Blizzard just made us bring 2 DKs, or it feels that way at least for most guilds. And now is it going to be a thing where they didn't play Hunter in this raid, so now they're gonna like Hunter's gonna be crazy, and you're gonna want to have like multiple Hunters for these bosses because you need to have Hunter's Mark on everything?
As someone who makes comps for bosses, I have a dislike for raid buffs.
You be both.
In a state like that.
We're gonna have one flex spot by the end of this expansion on the council boss.
I guess we could get into raid stuff, but I did want to bring something up because I feel like you're gonna have a different opinion to me, but I want to hear kind of your thoughts on this. So Kira actually tweeted, do you feel like there's no beta hype this cycle? Because for me personally, I don't know if it's just because I've been through so many betas, but I feel like I'm the new dungeons coming out on beta and me not having played them right when it comes out is like not really like me. And I'm not really like an add-on doomer or a midnight doomer at all. It just feels like there's like less attention and less excitement around the beta. Is that just like me or me getting old? Like how have you felt about the group of like people that you've been playing with on beta?
I think there's a lot of reasons that the hype is not so crazy, and I think a lot of it is that the start of beta M plus is maybe not as hyped as people remember it to be. First of all, I'll say that beta M plus in War Within came out about 70 days before the expansion launch, and it was in waves. You could only play it for like 4 or 5 days a week, and then it went down. And this expansion, the beta M plus, came out 100 days before release. It's like a whole month earlier. Like, we wouldn't even have beta M plus right now if this was War Within beta. And if you compare it to like PTR M plus, I don't think PTR M plus was like ever really that popular in the first week. Like it was generally, it would be like one dungeon, and the hype is like always at the end. I feel like I just feel like the general community wants to play a more complete game and isn't really that excited about beta 3 months out.
I also think there's just a pretty stigma against add-ons right now. Realistically, when you hear Midnight, what is the thing that people are talking about? Add-ons, right? Like, everybody's just talking about it. Everybody's either dooming or like celebrating it and celebrating how they're gonna be the best player ever and like on par with the Race to World First people now that add-ons are gone. So there's like, I feel like that's just where the discussion is, and it's less on the dungeons and stuff like that itself.
Well, the add-ons also impact the dungeons. Like things are also kind of broken. Like for half of this week, there was a bug where your add-ons would stop working every 10 or so minutes, and you had to reload. There's like the damage meters show 0 on every boss, and also people are just like not comfortable with their UIs. So beta is also kind of like, we have to like wait for the add-on authors to catch up so that we can kind of play it in the same way that we would normally play. It's kind of just like, normally you go on a beta to see what's new, what you're getting given, but this beta you kind of like log on to see what you're losing.
Jeez, that's a depressing way to put it.
It's
kind of true though.
I don't think it's like bad, but it's just like, if the hype is feeling killed, that's like probably one of the main reasons why, right? It's like, but I don't know if a beta needs to be something that's actually hyped, right? It's like, it is kind of just like testing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's
like
interesting.
Go ahead. It's interesting because I feel like over the last like last year, beta M plus or PTR M plus has become an event. I don't really recall people playing a lot of PTR M plus in like Shadowlands or Dragonflight, to be honest. They did play like beta M plus, but I feel like it was less of a thing. I don't know. Maybe that's just my perspective though.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree. I feel like with the rise of TGP and like high keys mattering more and like the competitive people mattering more, I kind of noticed that. Maybe that's just in my head, but it kind of felt like before you just kind of like push keys with whoever and you don't really care, and then like eventually by the end of the season you come out with a team. But nowadays it's like because TGP is so competitive, like these top teams are like almost forming already by the time PTR starts, and it's like it seems like it's gotten more serious, and I haven't really felt the need to keep up. But yeah, also I don't know, I don't really like to, what do they say, like I don't really like to spoil my food. Like I'm gonna be excited for the game and I'm gonna play it when it comes out and it's gonna be fun. Like I'm not really in any hurry to like run my head into the ground like doing all the dungeons over and over again.
That's fair.
Also, on the topic of being more serious, I think Blizzard is also more serious. Like, I'm pretty sure they're like a lot more iterative with like dungeons, and also they're also balancing classes around their performance in dungeons. Like the last few seasons, there's like always something to like look forward to every week. And to be honest, this week, the balancing changes and like the updates this week were actually not that crazy. They didn't really like buff anything.
Yeah.
They also didn't really nerf anything. We're kind of just playing the same balance that we had like 2 weeks ago in beta.
I heard that
A lot of
complaint.
specs are really bad.
2 weeks of beta and people were expecting some massive changes, but nothing really changed, and that was really awkward. But I have a feeling that it was just due to the holidays, and hopefully we get some big changes this week. That's the hope.
I mean, what a world we live in. We're 2 weeks on the beta, and we're like, where are all the changes? Where's this? Where's all the new dungeons? It's just like, man, I don't know. Like, I'm not saying that they couldn't be doing better. Like, you know, obviously we want to see better progress, but at the same time, like, I don't know. It is what it is. Like, it's a beta. Shouldn't take it too seriously.
Yeah. All right. Should we move to the raid then? So, Zorthas, you recently released a video on the raid itself. What were your impressions of Mythic from this last week?
My impressions, I think the early bosses in Mythic were probably some of the hardest earlier bosses I've tested. I'm not gonna say it's gonna stay that way, but I feel like there was like some decent level of coordination needed. They weren't like pushovers. And normally, when you test the early bosses of the raid, you get up to the first boss, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's the first boss. It's a joke. Nothing's happening. We're gonna one-shot this on live. That was not the case in this raid. Then the mid level bosses kind of felt normal. They felt like they felt pretty reasonably challenging, but nothing too crazy. Probably like I said anywhere between 10 to 100 pulls on like the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th boss.
Okay.
Yeah, so to maybe explain a little bit. So the very first boss, everyone keeps calling it the tic-tac-toe boss. Basically, the way the mechanic works is it would spawn these ads, and then the ads would have a shield, and it would give 10 players a debuff. And in order to break the shield, you would have to have 5 players with that debuff on one of the ads and dispel them, and then 5 players on another ad. So basically, you needed not only 10 people who were getting the debuff to know exactly where they needed to go, or one of the ads didn't die, and you needed 10 dispels to be perfectly coordinated with those people. It was absolute madness, and I don't know if I made this up or whatever, but I heard it was only supposed to be 3. I heard it was supposed to be 3 debuffs destroy a shield and not 5. Did you guys hear anything about that?
I didn't.
I didn't either.
I wasn't really.
Yeah, I think that boss would have been infinitely easier if it was only 3 dispels, and that makes more sense. Because like literally with 5 dispels, you might not even have 5 healers, right? Like how the heck? Like you're basically digging into your kit to like have to use like dwarves or like warlock or imp dispel or something, right? Like it just seemed a little bit out of place. But yeah, I definitely agree. The first 2 bosses were absurdly hard in testing. I hope this was just a little bit of a fluke and that the bosses were like a little bit too hard, but I'm a little worried that, you know, since the sentiment is all talking about add-ons this and add-ons that everyone is like, oh, look what happens. Blizzard doesn't know how to make the bosses. Everything's impossible. Like, we don't have our add-ons. Like, you don't have a weak order for those.
Yeah. I mean, there is a decent level of coordination that was needed for this, which is the level of thing that they needed, or they probably wanted, you know, when they were removing weak auras. But this feels like it's not exactly fair to the player, considering you needed all 10 players to do exactly something perfect. Otherwise, you just probably wipe. And
See,
that's rough.
The thing about this boss is this is not actually a hard mechanic. The coordination needed is actually not that high. It's essentially just like full raid stacks on one ad. You dispel 5 people. Anyone who still has the spell runs to another ad, and they just wait for a dispel. It's like not hard, but it is the first boss, and to have like a raid wipe mechanic where like one of 10 people could just cause a raid wipe, individually or by themselves, on the first boss is like a bit crazy. Also, you kind of need 5 healers on the first boss. Like that is a bit too excessive. This will be fine on like a third, fourth boss, no problem. But first boss maybe a bit weird.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that, because that was my first thought too. It was like when we were raid testing, everyone was, and we were like, we did not have a full guild. We were kind of like pugging and playing with some random people, but everyone was like, oh, this is way too hard for a first boss. And I'm like, yeah, but it's still not that hard, right, guys? We can do these things. Like, why are we wiping to this? Like, it's not that hard. Like, I don't know. I guess this boss frustrated me a little bit on raid testing. Like, I was like, this should not be that difficult. Like, we just stack on one. It's not like there's a punishment for having too many people in one spot. Like, you just dispel and you just move to the other one. But I don't know. The boss gave our guild and friends a very big challenge.
Yeah,
the guild I was doing it with, like halfway through the hour, like 30 minutes in, I'd say we had like a 90% success rate. Like we were just like doing it correctly every time. It's not hard, but yeah, it's the first boss. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just also a different paradigm, right? Like, normally, like, if you had a weak aura for this, it would say, go to add 1, go to add 2, or whatever, right? Like, people have to react to whether or not they get dispelled here. And I honestly think all that was probably needed is just add a little more time. Just add a little more time.
I think having exactly the amount of debuffs you needed was too much.
I think
add affordability. Like, you can miss 2 debuffs, and it's fine. And all of a sudden, like, you have 2 people fail every time, and it's not a wipe.
It's also fine, yeah.
I think that's like the biggest issue.
One thing you brought up,
there are a lot of ads. There are a lot of ads, and it was hard for the tank to pick it up. Look at this. The ads.
Yeah, we were really struggling, because the ads would enrage the boss, right? And it would be so hard for the tank tanking the boss would like get ads, and then the ads would empower the boss. That was the thing that we struggled with the most once we finally got the dispels down, was like managing the ads. We would like delay lust, and then we would just lust the ads just to make sure we would get by this part.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, though, kind of cool first boss, like, realistically, compared to some of the ones we've gotten in the past. So, like, other than the affordability of that mechanic, like, I'm kind of a fan. I don't know about you guys.
I liked it. I think if they just made it, and I heard someone say like, oh, it was supposed to be only 3 dispels, or like literally like in the dungeon journal it said 3 dispels before, and then they like did something last minute. I think then it would have been like a just fine boss for sure.
Okay.
One thing that you talked about that I kind of wanted to hear again or flesh out a little bit. You brought it up in your video that I really liked, was there's this idea that, oh, they removed weak auras and now we're in this new era of WoW raiding where Blizzard can do all of these things that they could never do before. And I was kind of thinking that like this is a little bit of a silly idea. Like we're probably mostly going to see the same raid. Like it's not like the raids are going to change. But you actually brought up in your video, like, you thought several of the mechanics in the testing were actually going to be made a lot better because there's no weak auras to solve them, and you're actually going to kind of have to use your brain. And it would have been a lot worse mechanic if there would have been assignments, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's not like, oh, there's all these mechanics we can make, but we can't make them because there's no weak auras. I think it's more like, oh, there's all these mechanics that would be very lame and boring if we put them in, and someone just makes a weak aura, and everyone has to download the same weak aura pack, and it's all solved. And I mean, it's something that you could probably just like do in your own head. Like it's like you have to assign. It's like on the second boss, there's 6 worm fixates. You have to assign them to 2 sides. Like assign 3 people to go to one side. It's just like a raid leader just calls out 3 names and they go left or something. It's like not really something that needs a weak aura. Although that one was also a bit too hard for a second boss.
Yeah, that boss was really, really tough. Again, that's where I think that I actually think the mechanical complexity and the things that they were having us do were like dead on and like pretty reasonable and cool bosses. It was more just the tuning of the things that seemed too tough. Like when the ads blew up, it was just so much damage compared to what it should have been. I got a little bit worried. We have written down here on the notes too about like, oh, healing is back or whatever. People thought like, oh, they're improving healing. They made like a little blue post. I felt like some of the damage in the raids was like really, really spiky. to the point where like if you don't have a major raid cooldown or a group defensive or whatever, people are just dead. It almost felt like we were like testing on worse gear than before or something, but I didn't really look into it. I don't know. How did you guys feel about like the damage intake and the spikiness of the damage?
I mean, the gear is. I think the gear you test with the mythic is always bad, but it kind of doesn't matter because it's just tuning. The raid damage was tuned like very high. It's like anytime any mechanic happened, we were just like ticking out.
Yep.
Did you heal or did you play mage?
I healed. I played druid for 1 day of testing and then shaman for another day.
I did half of the paladin's boss on healer because it was like rough and we kind of need another healer. And yeah, it does seem like the damage is like quite high. I don't know if that's the issue of tuning or if it's an issue of just like inexperience with the new healing and cooldowns not set up correctly. Maybe like some classes are weak, but it was definitely like anytime any mechanic happened, the entire raid would just start dying, and
Yep.
everyone would be ticking.
Yeah, I like that one of their stated goals was to remove the, what do they call it, incidental healing, like just sort of the random healing, which I kind of liked, right? Like I think universally as a DPS or a healer, like you don't just like random procs and things just like spewing out, like you like your buttons to be doing the damage and it makes the class feel more fulfilling. Same with healing. So I did like that. I do think they kind of accomplished that, at least from the healers that I played. But I still think like the speed of how much damage you're taking and the power level of how fast healers can top the raid just seemed way, way too high. But hopefully that's just a tuning thing and not a. I mean, I think we complain as healers, we complain about this every expansion, and it just seems to creep and slowly get worse since like I don't know, 5 years ago or 6 years ago or something. Like healing power is just so crazy right now. I guess it's just worrisome to see it like this at the very beginning of the expansion. Like if it creeps up and then healers are nuts by like the third tier of the expansion, it's kind of whatever. But to be like going in with, a boring tier set and like not really well fleshed out builds and still being able to like massively push people's health bars up. I mean, I guess some people might like that, but to me, it's like I don't really like the spiky reflexive, or like the other side of that is like the need to be pre-planned. Like you mentioned the idea of having healer cooldown set up. It's if we didn't have a healing CD rolling already, like our whole raid is just dead. Like if we didn't have Devo or Barrier or something, our whole raid is just dead. That's how a lot of things felt.
Yeah. I mean, just watching the health bars on Fallen King here, like every time the orb explodes, the raid gets a massive dot, and it's just like the health bars aren't moving pretty fast. And I doubt there's healing cooldowns for this right now, but it's just like there's. I think this is what like Thayun was talking about back in his video, and it's just like the raid is slowly ticking down. But maybe it's just like our healing cooldowns just too powerful. Is that what it is? Because like the orbs actually seemed reasonable, but like if you have a healing cooldown, is the raid just popping up? But now this is some pretty significant burst damage in the intermission here. So where's the happy medium type thing?
Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's hard. It's early in testing, and when you don't have a full guild doing it and like planning things out, it's a lot different. Because ultimately, these bosses are designed for a bunch of sweaty nerds all working together, planning stuff anyway, right? So it's kind of one of those things where okay, maybe I'm just complaining about it, but if healing isn't spiky and reflexive, then how are they going to make these bosses really, really hard? I guess it's just. It almost seems like a lot of healers have trended away towards mana management. Like that was sort of how healing was. I don't want to say back in the day, but just a few expansions back was you had to manage your mana well. And like at the beginning of Prague, let's say it's like a 300 pull boss. After like 50 pulls in, you're like, when the boss is at 70% health, and you're like trying to figure out how to manage all the damage and the healing that you need to do. And then like you make better decisions and plan your CDs out better to get later in the fight. Whereas now, I feel like half the healers like barely even use mana or don't care about mana, and it's more just like playing the Tetris of where does everyone's cooldowns go, where does every healer cooldown go, and it's I don't know. I mean, I guess it's something like it can be a part of raiding, but I just find the mana management and like trying to be more thoughtful part of healing more enjoyable to play.
All right. Any other notes on the raid testing, normal, anything like that?
Nothing was really special in normal. Actually, they didn't test the other raids in normal. They only tested Voidspire in normal, and that was very annoying. I like had an entire guild raid night for normal planned, and it was like 5 bosses.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I mean, also the multiple raid thing, the Dream Rift boss kinda looked like a 4th boss to me.
Yeah.
Look, it was like I mean, it's on the same bracket as the 2nd and 3rd boss. It's definitely it's like not. It didn't look trivial, but it looked very simple. It's like a multi-phase boss where you can't touch anyone from the other phase, but there wasn't any like real like things to force you out of position. So I think the positioning on that boss will be solid, and most likely the flow charts can be go 3 bosses in Voidspire and then go Dream Rift.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually found that interesting. So I know that they talked about how they were going to do like a staggered release with the raids. And I don't know why, but I kind of pictured it as like way more spread out. Like I thought these raids were going to come out like a month, 2 months into the patch. But they literally are coming out like right after each other, right? So what is the cadence again? It's like there's heroic week for both of the two like the 6 boss raid and the 1 boss raid is heroic week, then mythic week, and then it's mythic week for the next, like the 2 boss raid is literally week 3, right?
Yes. Yep. It's heroic week, mythic week, and then the final raid on mythic and heroic as well. So something to do every week.
Why do you think they're doing it like this? Because I kind of imagined before it was like trying to stretch things out a little bit, but that's clearly not what they're doing. They're jamming it all into the initial release month.
And probably the race to world first. I feel like it's just like a lot of publicity, and it would kind of be like really awkward if it was 2 weeks in between. They did originally say, I believe they originally said the Master on Cloud and Us was coming out 2 to 3 weeks after the Voidspire and other raid.
Yep.
And this is 1 week.
Well,
and this 1 week is like 1 week after Mythic. This 1 week is like kind of irrelevant. Like, I mean, I'm like a top 20 guild. This won't affect us. Like, this is essentially just a normal season. We probably weren't getting to the 8th boss in Mythic on the first week, anyways. Yeah, it'll probably have like a minor effect in Race World first, unless they do like some crazy Mythic splits or something.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the goal for the Racer World first is going to be? So, like, let's say for like, I guess what I mean is like, okay, let's say week 1 of Mythic, they kill like all the bosses but 1, and then the next week, then the other 2 bosses, like, do they just skip that boss and go to the 2 in March of Coldanis? Like, how do you think that's gonna work?
So,
well,
all right, there are 3 Hall of Fame achievements, which probably means there are 3 Hall of Fames, and I have a feeling that, like, you might want the official leaderboard position on as many as possible, meaning you would probably want to go into the Dream Rift as soon as possible. For the one,
yeah, exactly.
As you need to gear up in Voidspire and try to snag the Dream Rift as early as you can. But if you're wrong, that's a problem, because then you wasted a bunch of time, on the Dream Rift. But then, like if the other guilds goes to boss 4 of the Voidspire or whatever, then you get a leg up when you go back. But like, you want the 1 boss as soon as possible, I feel like, and you hope that Voidspire takes 1 week so you can go straight into March or something like that. I don't know. It's gonna be a weird thing.
I assume the actual Race World first will be all 9 bosses. I'm under the assumption that's like how they will want to certify it. I don't think they'll care about like, oh, we got world first Dream Rift.
Somebody will surely though, right? Like, what if?
Oh yeah, like not the actual world first guilds, but there will be guilds that will care. Yes.
Yep.
I feel like that'd be interesting though, right? To like to go in and actually try and get world first Dream Rift as like a rank 10 guild or 20 guild or whatever, because I mean there's still lots of good players in there. Like, they could easily do that. And then what, like, Liquid is gonna be, or Liquid or Echo is gonna be like world fifth of that or whatever. And it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. I don't know. It's kind of funny. I'm just interested to see how it all devolves and like who decides to do what. It's kind of like Blizzard stirring the pot a little bit, like throwing in a little bit of nonsense just to see what people do.
As much as this, is a weird thing for the race world first, the reason that they've stated is the March of Cold Anasis for story, right? Like, that is the sequential raid after Voidspire. So I have a feeling that this is set up this way mostly because the Mythic Week, you have the story mode for everybody else for Voidspire, and then the week after that, you go straight into March. I think, and then that's when the cinematic gets shown and everybody sees it. So like, I think that's probably why realistically it's set up. But yeah, we can go with Grau's thought of it's the script.
I mean, I get it. It's like you're almost certainly right. It has to do with story reasons, but like, why? Like what? Why don't they just have it out right away and then why is that bad for the story? Like, if you want to skip ahead, if you want to skip halfway through the book and start reading, like, you can do that, but that doesn't make sense if you enjoy the story, right? Like, if you it's not like they keep these cutscenes like secret or whatever. Like, people are gonna see them like frame one or whatever that they're released.
Yeah.
Maybe this is just not my realm to understand.
I think that's probably it. I think there's a lot of people who very much care about the story and try to go in as blind as possible so they can see it themselves, right? Like, as if they were playing a solo RPG. And realistically, if it's on the internet, like with any major TV show, movie, whatever, trying to avoid spoilers is tough. So, especially if something big happens in any one of these raids for the story reasons, we've got the Sylvanas back in 1127. Like, she probably has something to do. Like, who knows, right? Like, who knows what happens with Xalatath? We might see her feet more, or she might die, or who the fuck knows, right? Like, that's going to spread around the internet really quickly across Reddit, social media, that kind of thing. And it's going to be really hard for people to avoid that. I have a feeling that they at least want people to see the Voidspire finale first, then before the March stuff. That's my guess.
I think it also spreads the content out a bit, especially with their like original goal of like 2 to 3 weeks instead of this 1 week.
Yeah,
it's probably better for the general population to you have. I mean, otherwise, like, why would these 3 raids not just be one raid? Right? Like, the general population goes into one raid, and then a few weeks later, the next raid opens, and you go into the next raid. You're like looking forward to something. I don't know. Could see something like that.
There's also some really interesting stuff. Dreamrift is one boss, meaning you can attempt Dreamrift mythic splits. Do you really want to? Because you're not going to get saved until it dies.
We love splits.
The mythic splits is like a interesting topic because either they go into Voidspire and they're trying really hard to kill Crown of the Cosmos, which could actually be a hard boss. You've seen it has like a Gallic style dungeon journal.
Yes.
It, doesn't have a mythic, doesn't have a mythic in there. There is a world where they don't want to give information out for that boss, so they just go full mythic split straight away. Or there is also a world where they do Voidspire and they don't do Dreamrift, and when they get stuck on Crown of the Cosmos, they start doing mythic splits in Dreamrift. The loot in Dreamrift honestly looks pretty bad. There's like a really good trinket, but it might, who knows if it's going to be still good in 3 months from now.
Yeah, I mean, you could do it both ways. You could split Voidspire and then prog Dreamrift as a main raid, or you could split Dreamrift and do Voidspire as a main raid, right? Like, I don't know. It's like, it depends how hard it is, because if you can clear it week 1, then that's a pretty big loss if you try to split. But if it's going to a week 2 raid anyways, you might benefit from the increased loot on week 1 by splitting. So you're taking a gamble, I feel like, and I feel like one team, probably Liquid, is going to have to take the step up and make a guess as to what they want to do.
It just comes down to what they're playing for, right? Like, if they are playing to do if they're only saying March of Coldanis is the what the goal is, then in theory they should just split every other boss, right? Like, why wouldn't they?
This would be easy.
Mythic Week for them is essentially this is just another heroic week. If their goal is only to beat the last boss of Coldanis, then this is just heroic week number 2 for them, and they should just split as much as possible to get as much gear as possible and not care at all about kills.
Yeah.
If their goal is to 9 out of 9, it's like they're either choosing between getting more gear and fighting an easier version of the Crown of the Cosmos with more gear and not give away information, or they go into Voidspire and do Crown of the Cosmos in week 1 to avoid wasting like potentially several days on Crown of the Cosmos in week 2.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how
know.
hard it is. If it ends up being a 300 pull boss, then yeah, they're gonna want to start chipping away at it for sure.
But I think they can kind of do both, like maybe main raid into Crown of the Cosmos prog, where you funneled all your gear onto like 5 or 6 people in that raid, and then the other people who are in the Voidspire main run swap onto a different character that was in Mythic Splits for the second week or something like that. I don't know.
Oh boy, they're gonna have so much fun with this.
There's definitely a lot of like possibilities, I think, and I maybe dread to say it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they have analysts for, to figure that out, right? But I think the one thing is there is no Omni token, right? Like, there's no Omni token until March comes out, which means that during Heroic Week and during Mythic Voidspire Week, there is no Omni token, which is actually gonna hurt pretty much everybody pretty significantly on their tier sets.
I mean, let's be honest. If you're not in like a very organized guild, you don't win those things. Like you go in your raid, you roll against 25 other people, and you never win. I feel like it's definitely a thing for like higher end guilds, but curios are just like a icing on the top for most players. But I do agree with you that it's going to make gearing up people certainly more annoying, because the nice thing about a curio is you get any piece you want, right? So it makes it so a character is much more within reach of being complete because they only need 3 or 4, whereas now it's like, well, you actually need to have your full tier set.
I think any guild that does one split, or like a second split, 2 runs, will have full tier on everyone, barring bad RNG by Mythic Week. You can't get bad RNG. Like you can just go into a run and 0 Mystic. Well, they're not Mystic anymore. 0 Mystic pieces drop in both weeks, and you just have no tier. But any guild that does like a split will have full tier, and any guild that doesn't do a split will probably be better off anyways in the Mythic Week, just because there is a Heroic Week. So it's like,
yeah, that is true. That's the trade-off. Is
yeah, I think
we're thinking of how it was with no Heroic Week, but now we have a Heroic Week, so we're gonna get like you're actually gonna be injected with way more tier this time around than you would be otherwise.
Also, the tier, I believe, is going to be a lot less relevant. I don't think the particularly good tier sets for most classes.
That's true. I mean, damage is damage. It depends how well they're tuned, right? Like, we've had some pretty significant blockers recently on bosses. Boss 3 and Boss 4. Right? Like, Rick for week 1 was a struggle for a lot of guilds. Obviously, Styx. And then we had Araz. So, like, I'm curious to see where they end up landing on terms of that, because Rick was a pretty rough for a lot of guilds.
I feel like the meta for a lot of guilds is just Mythic Splits now. Like, especially with...
I hate it.
Yeah, I hate it too. Yeah, but it just is what it is. I mean, I say I hate it, but I like having gear. I think especially as a healer, like, you hate splits, but at the same time, it's certainly nice to have your tier set right away. Like,
Definitely.
you know, I hate splits until it's week 1 and I actually get to have my 4-piece as a healer. I'm like, actually, splits are great.
I mean, maybe with this new release schedule, maybe they'll move away from the 4th boss as an impossible wall philosophy.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's a philosophy, more so as they just like missed the mark a couple times.
Yeah,
but maybe
I mean, it was 3 times.
Oh, that's true.
One of them was the 5th boss, but it was 3 raids in a row. There was a mid-raid, like absolute, like easy boss, relatively into absolute wall that only like 10 guilds killed before it got like a mega nerfed.
Yeah. I mean, you guys were on there. I remember they nerfed Araz, and I believe you had a tweet about it.
Yeah, it was terrible. Like we put in like 130 pulls in, and we were like so close to a kill, but we just didn't get it at the end of that week. And then the boss was like made into what for us was a joke. Every single mechanic got nerfed. We got an extra week of gear, and then they nerfed the HP by like 10% on top of that. We walked in, and I think we like two-shot it. I think another guild, I think it was like Northern Sky, did like mythic splits. They're like a guild on equivalent skill to us, and they killed in like 10-15 pulls. When we took like 130 as we did in the first week.
Fair enough.
Hey, that kind of thing is like really bad for us. I really hope they don't do it again.
Yeah, I mean they're competing, or they have to balance this for a lot of different people, and obviously why it was sad to see for you, it was the saving grace for a lot of other guilds. So how do they balance
but
that?
The issue is like it's just it happened in the first place.
Yes,
that's just the issue. It shouldn't happen. Like it should. Like the Soul Hunters and Fractalus were like easy bosses after that. Like you honestly should have just been able to go Soul Hunters Fractalus before a Raz or something like that, and they realized what was going to happen.
All right. Anything else on the raid?
No, I think we pretty much covered it.
Growl, I think you wanted to cover classes, right?
I wanted to talk about a little bit, just if you had any thoughts or like overall design. I think a lot of people, we did mention a little bit how it was like, kind of a case by case basis, but I guess for me, like maybe this is less classes and more just overall, but I kind of felt it was a lot more like when I play retail, especially as a DPS, I feel like a majority of the game is just me like hyper fixating on making sure I'm doing a lot of damage and like doing my rotation right. And I'm kind of just like relying on the bells and whistles and weak orders of my UI to like tell me to do stuff. But I feel like now it's sort of being shifted to like, okay, you're forced to pay attention to the dungeon and like where your teammates are standing to do the mechanics and like the swirlies on the ground. But at the same time, your rotation is like a little bit less or a little bit more forgiving and like harder, easier to execute. Did you guys were you getting those same vibes when you were playing, that it sort of like feels, I kind of like it. Like I like that shift in a way, but maybe this is just like in my own head or whatever.
I don't mind it. It's kind of class dependent. I think a lot of classes are like quite simple, and there are a lot of classes that are like basically unchanged. I played about half the specs in the game so far in beta, and I would honestly give it like a 50-50, like a 50-50 split. There are like half of the classes are maybe missing something, made a bit too easy, maybe potentially, or just kind of feel incomplete. And then the other half of the classes, they kind of just like took away some procs that just made the spec play worse. They just took away bloat, and the specs actually are like really cool now and well designed. And I think the focus on there's just like a lot less things on your screen, even if there's like less procs to track, less things to track, so you like can look more at the things going on, I guess.
The battlefield.
Yeah, the battlefield.
I think for me, I noticed the lack of buttons, honestly, and I think that's actually probably a good thing, because I was just like on certain classes, I was just running out of space to like put things like gateway, or like shamans, druids. I think were pretty bad in this area. I run out of buttons. Although there are some classes now where I just have no buttons, like DH. Like half my bar is just empty, which is weird, but I don't know that's necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, and to be clear, there's still a lot of buttons, right? Like, I think a lot of people might hear that and be worried that the complexity is gone, but I don't think number of buttons directly relates to complexity. Like, I think that classes did not need 40 buttons or whatever, like Druid or Shaman had before.
I still think it's like on a per class basis. And they did, there was a lot of outcry on Fire Mage and Resto Shaman, right?
Yeah.
Those are the classes that were like overpruned. Everyone was outcried about that. They've already given back things to both of those specs, right? Like, they gave Resto Shaman Unleash Life. They gave Fire Mage Scorch. Although I think I don't know how they play exactly now, but yeah, they are kind of dialing back on the classes they overdid it on.
Yeah, those were, I know Resto Shaman specifically. The problem is Cloudburst was such like an iconic button for them, and so it's kind of weird when your class loses like. But I do remember like from making videos and teaching people or whatever, like it was a thing that people struggled with. Like new players did not like the ability because of the complexities. So it's hard when you have these double-edged abilities where it's like, yeah, if you've been playing the class for 10 years, you love it and it's iconic, but if you're someone who's trying to pick up the spec, it's like a little bit overwhelming and much. But I've heard positive things about the classes that were complaining, but also I haven't looked into them deeply. Like I haven't really looked into any mage stuff yet on PTR, but I've seen, like, I remember, I think I brought it up last week on the show where Fired Up tweeted about mage, and it's like when that guy is like commenting, like he doesn't really, like, he posts pictures of dogs and like jokes and stuff, so when that guy is talking about mage complexity, that's like oh shit, I better listen, like this is serious. And so I think, I don't want to say they're walking back because Blizzard's, changing them, but I think the people who, the mages seem to be a little bit happier with some of the changes that have been going on. But I don't think it's all the way there yet. Like, I think there's still a ways to go with improving some of the classes.
Okay. All right.
All right, Zorthas, what's going to be OP? Right now, you have 10 seconds. What's the meta comp for Season 1?
Well, DK basically got unchanged in their utility kit, and they were meta for like the entire War Within. So I think that would probably be the safest pick. DK DPS.
Okay.
Oh shit. We had to give the listeners a little treat for listening to this long. That we know how much they fiend for the tier list and the ranking.
Yeah. I do.
Alrighty then. We can do some quick Q&A and then wrap
No, we have to talk about the most important thing that's been going on this week.
Yep. Sorry,
player housing. How could you forget about player housing? The revolution to retail WoW. How much have you guys done, if any?
So, I got my plot in my guild. I put a tree over my cornerstone because it looked really ugly. I bought a bunch of grass and have not had time to do anything else.
I actually did quite a bit. The day it came out, there was no beta, I think, so I actually like kind of made a full-fledged. Well, I didn't make a full house, but I pretty much made a full room. It's like kind of cool. I made like there's a lot of cool things you can do with it, like because you have full freedom of what to move and you can rotate, scale things. I ended up making like an outdoor park inside my house, and I have like windows dyed blue as the sky. I think it's actually one of the best like implementations of housing I've seen, in my opinion.
It's
like,
so good. I'm so unbelievably positive about it. If I screen share, can you get it on the screen, or would that be like weird or hard? I want to show off my house. I mean, I don't have that much, but here, how about I do this, and then you don't have to figure it out. You can just see. I'll just do this, and then if you, and then you. Or wait, did I share the wrong thing?
No, I just moved everything around.
Oh, okay. I'm just being an idiot right now, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Sorry.
No, it's fine. We will get this here for Growl.
Yep. Because I've actually been like tinkering around with a lot of stuff. What you can do in the customization of it is like so crazy. If you've been like around the streets and like Reddit or whatever and like looking at some of the stuff people are creating, it's so funny. I don't want to say these people came out of nowhere or whatever, because I'm sure they're like, we're doing something very creative somewhere, but the amount of like random like creators that are like incredibly innovative and like are doing this insane stuff with the player housing already. Like, I get that they're probably doing it on beta, but it's just like, it blows my mind. Like, holy shit. Like, I'm just like looking at a YouTube channel of somebody who has like 1,000 subscribers, and I'm like, in 2 years, this person's going to have like 500,000 subscribers, and it's going to be crazy.
All right. We have hacked it together.
Oh, nice. We did it. Okay, good job, Squishy. Thank you.
Yep. Oh, hold on. We have to fix it. Dude, this is why I'm not a streamer. All right.
Okay, I won't go too far. So this is my little elf house. I built it by the water. I can't really decide if I want to go for a night elf vibe or what. I made this little rock water thing. I found like, basically you can like put fountains under blue stuff and like make water however you want it, which is really cool. I started experimenting with like really basic stuff, like just, how do I slam a bunch of these tables together to like make like a little spiral staircase or whatever. And then I started looking up Reddit and like seeing the cool stuff that people can do. And I saw somebody made a chessboard. And this is like a 200-piece chessboard with like, hold on, let me see if I can. Why is my Zoom not working? I made like a 200-piece chessboard with like all the different little things. I was like running around in Warlords of Draenor, like farming my garrison and like in Legion and shit. I made a little room. I made my little PC setup. Oh yeah, I found this too. It's like a little guitar, a little bit big for my character, but okay, that's it. I just wanted to show off my. But that's what I've been doing. I'm terribly uncreative, and this stuff is like very, very hard for me. Like this is like hours and hours and hours for me to do any of this shit, but it's actually really, really cool, all the stuff that you can do. I've been really, really impressed with I would highly encourage people who are like, if you haven't really taken a look into it yet, just like, you don't even have to do stuff, but just go on YouTube and look up like player housing or look up like player housing stuff on Reddit. Like people are absolutely nuts with this stuff. And it makes me sad whenever I see people talking like, oh, this is Blizzard's greatest cash grab, or people being angry about this stuff. Like this is one of like the coolest, most unique things that they've put into WoW, like basically ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a pretty cool experience. I was going around like public neighborhoods trying to see if I could get into anyone's house just to see what people are doing. It's kind of annoying because the settings are like private by default, so you can only get into like 1 out of every 10 houses. I don't like that that's the case. I feel like it should be more open, and something like you opt out of. But then I did end up finding a house with someone in it, and I was like, hello, I'm here to inspect your house or something like that. And then they introduced me to their friend who had like a really cool tavern, and they introduced me to their other friend, and I was just standing there outside of someone's house with like 3 strangers who are like probably like pretty casual, and we had a mount off.
That's awesome.
That's actually so cool. Yeah, I'm a big fan.
I do think the system should be more open. Like you'd like opt out rather than opt in on the privacy. Maybe like some public housing thing where you can just like, if someone has an open house, you can go to their house with their name or like their B tag or something without having them added. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, or maybe like a little reminder, like, you know, after you've spent like a day or 2 in your house, it like comes up a little pop-up that's like, by the way, your thing is private, would you like to allow people to visit or whatever? Because like that's honestly, it's like I'm an idiot, I'm sitting here screen sharing on a podcast to show my stuff. Like, dude, I want people to come check out my house, and like when I'm working on it, like it's fun. Like I'm sure a lot of people would as well, but they just might not realize that the setting is there or whatever. But another thing that was like, and again, I didn't pay any attention to PTR, so this just like surprised me, but I don't know if you guys saw like the riddles or whatever. But it was like so cool. Basically, the way it works is there's like a daily quest in town, and you talk to the guy, and it gives you like a little just like silly riddle about where an item will be hidden, and it hides an item somewhere in the neighborhood, and it just like, you know, like, oh, something about mountains and some about water and some about a shadow, and then you just kind of like piece it together, and it helps you like learn what the neighborhood looks like and like go around and like, it was just a very fun thing to do, to like wake up and be on my computer and be messing around and have a little riddle. And I don't know, it felt like one of the most MMO-y things that WoW has done in a very, very long time.
I think it's really funny that you say that, because the treasure hunt guides are by far the most popular thing across WoWhead. People looking up the solution.
I will admit that there have been there was one where I screen shared it to everybody in my call, and then we were all trying to figure it out, and then there was one where I definitely started Googling it because I got mad. But I mean, at least hopefully all you guys are at least trying the riddle before
Absolutely
you search it on Wowhead.
Absolutely not.
You really think that they just all right, if you're in the comments, say if you when you walk up to the riddle guy, do you try and do it, or do you just tab out as soon as you get the riddle and go into Google or Wowhead and type
All right,
it in?
Zorthas, what did you do? With the treasure, did you do the treasure hunt quest?
I have not done the riddle.
Oh, okay.
I honestly didn't even know. This is my first time hearing about it.
Yep.
I would have liked to do more housing things, but I they came out with a pretty important beta patch with the raid testing as well right after. So I kind of haven't been doing it, but I do plan on actually doing more housing things.
Nice.
No, you're
I
very
must
much
say-
appreciated because I sat around being an idiot doing housing instead of playing the beta, so you needed to come on and school us, so that worked out perfect. Thank you.
I must say that it's like my favorite thing that they're actually making people go out and just do random things in the open world to get furniture. I'm like a big fan of open world, but it's kind of like I feel like over the last few expansions, they've kind of removed all reason to do anything open world, in my opinion.
That's fair. I spent most of my time actually just going through my friends list and like spontaneously visiting their houses. That's what I did. Like Hippos has a druid house, and it's so cool. Just kind of stumbled into
Oh, I gotta
PC
see
plot.
Hippo's house.
Yeah, it's actually sick. I remember him tweeting like, I was not hyped for this at all, and I've spent 3 days on my house so far. I spent 5 hours like planting plants in my stairwell. Like, the guy's addicted.
I definitely spent so much time on this. Like, it's so cool. This is awesome. Like, there's obviously like little things or whatever. Like, I'm not saying the system's perfect. It definitely feels a little weird also that they like didn't, like they're like, oh, this is early access housing or whatever. But I don't know. I still think this is awesome. I'm so like optimistic about the housing. It's so cool.
Oh yeah. And there's so many things that people have done. Every guild plot, every neighborhood, there's one person that has the Zorthas shrine.
Hippo has the Zorthas picture right in his living room.
There's always one, at least, if not more. But there's always like somebody with like a cuck chair as well. So
What the?
Tell me I'm wrong, Growl.
I haven't seen many of them personally in my own experience, but maybe I haven't been visiting enough and I've spent too much time in mine.
Fair enough. All right, we'll end with a quick Q&A. We have from Cursed. I had an idea concerning the nameplate name shortening situation. Would a solution be a symbol-based system? If mobs are basically in certain archetypes anyways, a symbol indicating what the mob is would give Blizzard the freedom to name them something, archer, bolter, knight, whatever, and still having the clarity of what you can expect the guide to do. Think role symbols or something to the left of nameplates. What do you guys think?
I fear if you have like a big pool, there's just a lot of icons on your screen, maybe, and could potentially just feel like clutter. Maybe. Depends on how to do it.
I kind of like the idea of a classification system. I definitely agree with what Zorthas said about like putting more shit on the screen on top of what's already there would be too much. But what I think Blizzard wants to avoid is you being very specific and custom about what mobs do and how to interact with them. Like, oh, this is always a melee kick. This is always a range kick. Like, this is the guy you have to focus. This, like, to have those specific things in the game. I don't think Blizzard, if I had to guess, cares as much about, oh, this is a caster, this is a lieutenant, right? Like, I think I would like to see them built in something in game where it gives you a general idea of what the mob, like something about the mob, whether it's a caster or a lieutenant or whatever, and then you can just color the nameplates based off that. I think that would be the most elegant solution. I think the current Plater, right? Like when you open up Plater, it's literally a list of every mob in the game and every dungeon, and then you type in the mob and then you customize exactly what color and what the name is and all that. That would be way too much for the UI, but I don't think just having a little classification system is too much. I think he's going a little bit specific with saying like archer, bolter, knight, whatever. Like I think that's too much. I think it should be like very, very basic, like mini boss, lieutenant, caster, and then regular mob, and then maybe like something simplified for like a minion, and then that's it.
So
I think
my thought on it is the color or the coloring system that is what exists right now via Platinator or Plater is exactly what this is, just not in a symbol, right? Instead of a symbol, it's just coloring the nameplates. That's essentially what it is, because it's going off of multiple factors and also something behind the scenes that is archaic to the classic WoW days of every mob being classified as, I believe, a paladin, a mage, or a warrior.
A warrior, yep.
And this is some archaic thing that has not mattered in the longest time, but this roughly, not exactly, roughly corresponds to paladin being a bolter, a warrior being a knight or like a melee mob, and then whatever the third one is.
Yeah, well, so basically there's two types of casters. There's like strict damage caster, which is a mage, and then there's just a mob with casting abilities. Like think of a mob that has like Frost Nova or like some slam or whatever, or like battle shout or something like that. That would be a paladin. And then a mage is like a bolter or like an AoE guy, like think of the guys in like Arakara, the bolter volley guys. And then basically every mob that doesn't have a mana bar is a warrior. Again, that's like a totally fine classification, I think, for them to have in the game. I think I maybe I'm a little biased in like playing, like wanting a prio color too. That might be a little bit too much. I really benefit from like marking in every pull what the really high HP mobs are and mini bosses are, so that I can like, it makes it easy to target them. But that might be a little bit too much. I don't know.
I think Blizzard is actually surprisingly consistent at making the prio mobs level 91.
Really? That's funny.
Like all like the colored nameplates right now, as level 91 mobs are differently colored to level 90 mobs, and all the prio mobs are level 91. Like every single pull, the mob that has more health is level 91. It's like so incredibly consistent.
That's because they're lieutenants, right? They usually have bigger abilities, bigger AoE damage, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, but it's like I feel like no one really ever thinks of mob levels. Like no one on live is going like, oh, that mob is level 81. I must target that. I mean, it's actually very consistent.
Usually people tell it like, this is a lieutenant, right? Like, this is the guy that's blocking my way, I need to kill him type thing, and he can't be CC'd. Like, those are usually the quantities that people see, excuse me, which corresponds to level 91. So I agree with you there. Like, it's just a different framing of the question, I guess, or what people can see.
Yeah, I also think like the colored nameplates is like, if they allow the colored nameplates, I think it's better than like any other system.
Like the current ones you're saying?
Yeah, the current ones. I actually think they're pretty good and like mostly usable, to the same extent that the old ones were. I also think, I'm not sure if they actually care that much about the colored nameplates. I think what they cared the most about was the renaming, right?
Yep.
I don't know.
Have you?
They haven't been super clear about it, but I sort of agree with you. Like, I think hyper customizing the colors or renaming are the big things that they would care about. But like, yeah, like WoW had posted an article a few days back, and we don't have like perfect information about this because there hasn't been like an official Blizzard statement, but they basically said that what people are doing in the beta right now is fine, right? Like,
they said they're tentatively allowing it, right?
Yeah, they're tentatively allowing it, which is siffy. It was this. They specifically do call out colorizing unit names based on priority.
Yeah, but the whole paragraph is mostly about like renaming things, right?
I mean, this section here is about learning which enemies were the highest priority. So it's like, it's definitely not as like apparent as renaming, but it's definitely still relevant. So I would say 50% this gets like changed. Like they could go either way on this.
I don't know. I mean, I looked at this and then I did some diving into it. I looked at like my raid VODs, and everything in raid is just renamed. Like Dementius, he casts knock into spread into soak, and on the timers, on the cast bar, on everything, it just says that. And I'm not sure. I think it's Bigwigs doing that. And I actually looked, and I don't even think there's a way to turn it off. And a large amount of the player base is interacting with Bigwigs. There's like a lot of people who play the game who just do not interface with the spell names that Blizzard have given us at all. So I feel like that's probably the thing that Blizzard probably wants to crack down on the most.
It's
like
I think
the immersion being taken out.
Like, I think when you think about it in a raid perspective too, I think keep in mind that ultimately raid is sort of like the main thing that Blizzard does and they care about, and so when you think about priority and all these, like when you think about all this in a raid perspective, it makes way more sense, right? Like having people rename spells and mobs in raid, and like for example, like okay, in Demencius Phase 2, if you could color code, like, I'm pretty sure there were weak words and stuff that people did where they would color code or hide nameplates of the guys that you weren't supposed to kill and then leave the one nameplate special of the one guy that everyone wants to kill to, like, leave the hole in the wall or whatever. Like, I think that's mostly what they're targeting is, like, in a raid situation where there's, like, certain things that the raid is supposed to kill first or problem solve what to do. I don't necessarily think it's from a dungeon perspective that they're like angry that you can decipher in between mobs in a pack. I think
Remember
it's
One Armed
mostly
Bandit?
about raid stuff.
Bandit.
I mean that's another
highlight.
example too of One Armed Bandit, right? Yeah, like stuff like that is I think their main concern. When like they've said multiple times that their concern is like the add-on's making decisions for you, right? And that would be a situation where the add-on is gonna, if it can differentiate between the mobs, it's going to help you. Okay, everybody focus this one or whatever. Where they don't want, like they want you to have that level of coordination. I don't think they necessarily want to stop you from being able to differentiate a mage from a soldier or whatever.
It's possible. I think the problem again is just they had just have not been clear on this add-on philosophy at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely talking out of my ass a little bit with what I. Oh my, it's a little duckling. I've never even.
I'm just predicting.
What?
There's this little tiny duck that's on by my house. He's so tiny. He's like tinier than my foot. He's just like digging in the sand. Sorry.
I thought Zorthas had like changed to a duck or something. I was so confused. All right. I guess that's.
I have some lizards in my room. I saw a lizard in my room like 2 hours ago.
Oh god. All right. Zorthas, where can the people find you? And anything big coming up?
Zorthas on Twitch and Zorthas on YouTube. And Zorthas on Twitter. On YouTube, there's a space between the Zor and the Thus, like it's a name. Maybe I should change
we'll
that.
link it all down below. So.
Yep. Thank you so much for being on the show. We appreciate having someone with a reasonable but experienced beta outlook to give us some help everyone talk them down from the ledge and that things will be all right. I'm glad you're out grinding on the streets. And if anyone's looking for some footage or people doing beta dungeons, Zorthas is definitely way up there in the list of people that you should check out.
Yeah, I've been releasing a video every week as well about an aspect of the beta or the upcoming expansion. This week I had the raid video. Before that, I had the video about casters in Mythic Plus and the damage meter video.
Yep, it seems like Blizzard's listening,
every week,
so
probably.
keep it up.
Yeah. So make sure to tune in. He makes good videos. All right. Growl, anything else?
That's it. Nope, I think we're good. I think we can wrap up episode 76 of The Bench. Thank you for joining us, Zorthas. Appreciate you. Hope everyone has a wonderful, almost holiday week.
Brawlers Guild today. All right.